What's up, everyone? It is Denise Salcedo. Welcome back to the channel. My guest for today is the current Major League Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Alex Hammerstone. What's up?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
No, I'm so glad to have you on. I've gotten to see you wrestle a couple of times. I mainly seen you at PCW Ultra, pre-COVID and all of that. So it's
Okay.
pretty cool to kind of get this interview with you.
Awesome. Yeah.
So let's go ahead and jump right in. So obviously the thing that I want to talk about is MLW because MLW, I guess you can kind of agree with me here that it's sort of, changed your life. I think that they've given you a really awesome opportunity to really be the front runner of their roster. Obviously as champion, you were also the longest reigning and inaugural MLW National Open Weight Champion. So they've given you a lot of really cool opportunities within MLW. So I kind of want to talk about what your experience has been like with the company since signing in 2019.
Yeah, I mean, at the time when I signed, it was very much like a make or break time for me. I was pretty burnt out, and I was considering, an exit strategy from pro wrestling, and they came around at that time when I was like, is something gonna happen or is it not gonna happen? And they came around and it really reinvigorated things. And yeah, it's just like it gave me a whole fresh playground, a whole new world to play with. And I started exploring new ideas and kind of changing the way I did things and changing the way I did promos and my appearance. And I just started having so much fun with wrestling again. And not only that, they set me up with these big time matches with great opponents from all over the world. And man, it's just been like a roller coaster, but it's been awesome. And I think like the best is still yet to come.
So this may be a dumb question, but I gotta ask, what was it about your time in your life during that moment before you got signed with MLW that you thought, you know what, maybe I'm gonna exit out of wrestling and go and do something else? And what was the backup plan?
Wrestling is a very difficult business. Like everyone says, it's a one in a million dream job to make it. And I had been plugging away for a long time, and I wasn't just a weekend warrior who kind of you know put a little bit of effort here and there. Like I was really all in for many years, burning the candle at both ends, with my schedule booked nonstop and trying to manage a full-time job and all these things and thinking like I'd done everything right and made all the right moves and still not getting quite the return that I wanted to see from it. And, you know, the the side effects of my personal life were building up, one thing after another that, hits I was taking that you kind of attribute, as a byproduct of pro wrestling. You start to second guess, like, is it worth it? Um, and that's kind of where I was at. I didn't necessarily know exactly what I was going to do next, but it was a time when I was really starting to kind of map that out and think if I wanted to keep doing this.
So let me ask you because I know you had multiple WWE tryouts within a span of a couple of years. And can you kind of walk us through how that went and, kind of why things didn't end up working out? And did that, you mentioned doing all the right things, doing this and doing that. How did that kind of, play into your psyche when you're like, man, like this is the biggest company in pro wrestling and it's not working out? Can you kind of walk us through that?
Yeah, I mean, so I got an opportunity to try out with WWE very, very early in my career. Definitely before I was ready for such a thing. Simply because of the way I looked. Like I'm not ignorant to that. Like they saw my, picture. They said this is a young, you know, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, all-American guy with a good build. Let's give him a tryout. But at that point, I had had a handful of matches. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't really know what to expect. Um, so, at that time when it was a no, it was no big surprise. But as the years went on, I had more experiences working with them and doing the extra talent thing and all those kind of things. And eventually, they came knocking on my door and like, hey, we want to bring you back in. We want to take a look at you. And yeah, that time I knew I was, man, it sounds really cocky, but I knew I was ready. Like I went to this tryout, I was out working people around me. I really had matured not only as a wrestler but as a human being. I started understanding how to carry myself and how to do all the right things. And at the end of the day, at that tryout, I was busting my ass harder than anyone there. And I basically was told I had a job. But as things work out with wrestling, nothing's guaranteed until it actually happens. And just kind of some things slipped through the cracks, and it ended up falling through, and it didn't work out. And at the time, it was devastating, But looking back, I'm really glad at the way things have panned out ever since then.
I think I have to, sort of agree with you in that sense where it's like you kind of see how things, sort of how things have gone down for a lot of people that have gone over and signed and you think like, oh, this is the, aha moment of my career. But now, you kind of went a different route. And I kind of think that you could probably agree with me in the sense that it benefited you in a whole lot of different ways because I feel like we do, I mean, you can obviously talk about this more, but with MLW, you've seen like this massive growth in yourself as a person, as a performer, etc. You kind of touched on that on that a little bit, but can you tell us how you feel you've grown from like when you first signed with the MLW to the point where you are at now?
Yeah, I mean, so the change in my thought process really started to happen before MLW, but they just really solidified it. There was a time in wrestling when my goal was just do whatever stuff I have to do to get to WWE as fast as I can, so I could be a WWE guy and make money. And eventually I was like, that's not the end all be all. That's not all I want. Like, I want to enjoy this craft. I want to be a great wrestler. I want to have great matches. I want to do things my way on my terms. I want to have the style of match I want to have. I want to present the character I want to present. And MLW facilitated that in every way. And then they also did things like helped come to agreement with Pro Wrestling Noah, where I was able to travel overseas and hone my craft in a different way and really like get these world experiences. And it's like at this point there are so many things like it really comes down to like we get into this business because this is what we love to do, and somewhere along the way some people get lost and so caught up in making it a job and making it like, well, I have to go make money. Here's where I make money. And it's like, if you start to fall out of love with what you're doing, you might as well just, go be an accountant or go be an engineer or go be whatever else is just going to pay the bills that you don't really like. But for me, I love pro wrestling and I love the way I'm doing it right now. I love so many things about it. My I got to do things on my terms. I still get to work indies. I have the opportunity to go overseas. My schedule is great. I get to spend time with my family, and like I'm just extremely grateful for the way things have played out.
And I do want to ask you about Pro Wrestling Noah because you got to go there. I believe it was 2019, and you were there for a little bit of a period. You had several matches down there. I want to ask you, what was that experience like? Because obviously, it's a totally different world, not just wrestling wise, but also culturally speaking. So, kind of, how did you feel, going there and having that experience? What was the experience like for you, both in and out of the ring?
Yeah, I mean, so that was my third time traveling to Japan for wrestling, but it was my only time that was like a very long stay. I believe it was like 5 or 6 weeks. Um, so that was hard for me because I'm a guy who likes my routine. I like my home comforts. I like things to be very predictable. So I really had to shift my mindset in that regard just to kind of be able to like, okay, we're going with the flow. Whatever happens, happens. If you have to eat some mystery food, you don't know what it is. Like, all those little things that you don't think of. But as far as in the ring, like it was awesome because I got there, on the first night, and a lot of times on these tours, they start guys like in some tag matches or some 6-man matches to kind of like get a feel for things, get acclimated to the style, the way things are done, pick up some of the subtle nuance differences. My first night there was a main event with Go Shiozaki, and we went 25 minutes. And
Oh Jesus!
uh, so,
Did you get like how was those chops from Go Shiozaki?
I've never cared about chops until I wrestled him. I remember this is not like a joke or this isn't me putting him over. I remember him doing the machine gun chops in the corner, and sometimes he does rounds of them, and sometimes he just does it once. I remember after the first burst, my brain was just going, please don't do it again, please don't do it again, please don't do it again. And then he started doing it again, and I'm just like, oh my god! It was like the very first night there, my chest was bleeding.
Oh
Um,
my god. I
you
can't
know,
I can't even imagine.
yeah, but it was great, because I always tell guys this, like I remember maybe my second match, like thinking like, you know what, I'm gonna be this big like American heel and get all this heat. And I remember I was beating up on the baby face and I gave him a big power bomb on the apron. And I turned around to the fans. I said, "That's how we do it in America." And they just let out this very polite clap. And I realized, like, man, they don't give a crap about like this character stuff. They just want me to wrestle. Like, and for the rest of the tour, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna have the best wrestling matches I can have, and that's something that, again, that's like that little element that changed kind of the way I approach things. Where I understand wrestling's always gonna have characters, and that's always gonna be a big part of it, but sometimes I just like to shut that off and let what happens inside the ring speak for itself.
That is incredible, man. What an experience. And when I'm so glad that we got to talk about it because I was like very curious to see what your experience was like, heading over there and, getting to do that. The other thing that I did want to ask you about too, because, I know that last month MLW did a joint show with the Crash and you guys were down in Mexico. I know you've gone to Mexico a few times now. So I also kind of want to ask you, something similar about that because, we've all heard stories of what it's like to, wrestle in Mexico and all of that. And you got to team with one of the craziest guys, a Pagano, who is known for doing some extreme stuff. What was it like going to Mexico? What was your experience down there, and also getting to team with guys like Pagano?
Mexico's a mixed bag for me because like it's one of those things where again, you don't have the familiarity, you don't have the home comforts. You're kind of like which streets can I turn down and everything's good, and which ones do I not turn down, and that whole element, and maybe it's kind of overplayed, but you still got that in the back of your head. Um, but once you get in the ring and you're wrestling, it's great because the fans are wild. The energy is, fantastic. As for wrestling with guys like Pagano and, those crazy car crash matches, that's not my forte. That's not my cup of tea. But, every once in a while you have to shift styles and be able to adapt.
That is super awesome. Super awesome. So, Alex, before we move on, I do have one final question and then I wanted to get into the lightning round game. And my final question for you is, what are your goals within MLW? I asked this to all my guests, but also like your goals within wrestling and maybe some goals within outside of wrestling, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously, right now I'm the world heavyweight champion, and I starting hopefully to build a legacy in that role. Hopefully, it's the beginning of a very long reign, and it's going to require big match, big time matchups, the best opponents, and hopefully, maybe taking that belt to some new countries and all these types of things that can help like really make this a memorable reign. And just next month they announced me versus Davey Richards at Super Fight. Those are the types of matchups I want. The very best around. The matchups that are going to test me. The matchups that are going to get eyes on the product. The matchups that people are going to watch and go, man, MLW is. Uh, it's a show I can't miss.
Exciting stuff, man. So, Alex, before we go, we got a couple minutes left. So, we're going to do this lightning round where I'm going to ask you 10 very random questions about yourself to get to know you a little bit better. And you just answer them however you please. So, here we go. Let's go ahead and do it. Question number one. What is your weekly gym schedule like?
Right now I'm just training twice a day on days when I'm home from the road. And then if when I'm traveling, I don't stress as much anymore. I used to always have to hit the gym on the road, but nowadays I just focus on when I'm home, I kill it. If I'm on the road, if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, no sweat.
Question number two. What do you normally eat in one day?
It's very much the same crap over and over. Lots of eggs, chicken, beef, rice, protein shakes. But hey, if it's one of those days where the girl wants to go out for burgers or I feel like we need to order a pizza, uh, I can make that happen.
Awesome. How many calories do you think you consume a day? Like, how many? What's your like target goal?
Um, it's got to be around 4 to 5 thousand right now. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down, but that's typically what it takes to keep me the size I am.
Right, right. Question number 3, what's the worst diet trend or exercise that you have ever done?
Oh my gosh. Doing keto. Doing keto was awful. Just the worst I've ever felt. I just every day was awful. I just couldn't wait for it to end.
Question number 4, who are your most listened to artists on your gym playlist?
Oh, my gym playlist. Oof. I like some of the kind of like the newer school metal stuff, like As They Nine and August Burns Red. I don't shy away from like some dubstep, some Skrillex. But I'm gonna be completely honest. Sometimes I like some like mainstream pop songs, like that what's her name, Olivia Rodrigo or something.
Stop it.
She's
You
got a
listen
big
to Olivia Rodrigo? That's my cup of tea.
listen.
What's your favorite
l-
song?
It's whatever the one is that everyone the one that's on the
Driver's
radio. It's
license?
no. It's like the come on,
Good
the
for
big
you?
pop one. That's the one. That's the one.
There's
Yeah.
Good for
What a
you,
pop.
Deja Vu, Driver's License, Brutal. There's
Okay.
so
Yeah.
many.
Listen. Sometimes a good pop song gets me going.
Are there any other pop artists that you listen to besides Olivia?
I listen. I don't want this interview to divulge into me looking like a weirdo, so I'm just gonna let that one be the one I admit to.
Okay then. Okay, that's safe. That's I can definitely be okay with that. All right, here we go. Question number 5. What is your biggest gym pet peeve?
Oh, guys who take their shirts off in the middle of the gym to like look at themselves in the mirror, or even just like pulling the shirts up, to like look at their abs. Yeah, that's one that doesn't fly. That's what the locker room is for.
You're like, wait till you get home at least, right?
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Question number 6. How do you spend a day off?
Let's see. Okay, we got right there. I try to play my guitars, spend some time with the dog, and just spend some time at home with the family. I'm very much a homebody. I like to be home. I like to, just relax and let this beat up body be lazy sometimes.
Good. Question number 7. What's the most dangerous thing you've ever done?
it's it's probably just wrestling, to be honest. Like I literally remember the first time I did a ladder match. It was probably like 2013, and I'd never done anything like that. And I specifically remember like we took this crazy bump, some kind of like superplex out of the ring through. I don't really remember exactly. I just remember laying there and laughing, like laughing to myself because I was just like, this is so stupid. This is so crazy. But I survived, and it was like like a I couldn't help but like kind of like laugh, and that was kind of like how I was coping with how crazy this was. And we do that on a regular basis.
Question number 8. Where's your favorite place to eat when you're on the road?
Ooh, if it's after a show, it's got to be a classic diner, either Denny's or IHOP. If it's just traveling and trying to get a quick bite to stay kind of healthy, maybe something like Chipotle.
Nice. Question number 9. Do you have any pre or post match rituals?
Yeah. So this is horrible advice. Um, I don't stretch.
Oh,
I like
wow.
I almost never stretch. I remember specifically like two or three times having like a really big matchup that I was like nervous for, and I'm sitting there and I'm like stretching out, and I'm all like, stretch out, warm up, stretch out, warm up, and those were always the matches where I got hurt. And I know there's not a correlation. I know it's just like that was coincidence, but to this day, I'm like, I don't stretch before matches.
And my last question number 10. Who's on your bucket list of people you want to wrestle?
Oh my gosh. I'm honestly, that's a hard question for me to answer right now. I've been so fortunate in the last couple months, years to wrestle basically everyone who I've really wanted to. Um, that being said, I'd like to see some of the guys, the newcomers at MLW, climb their way up the card and make their way to the main event title picture. Not only for me to get to wrestle them, but to watch them grow.
Fantastic answer. Alex, thank you so much for doing this interview with me. I really appreciate it. Before we go, please feel free to plug in anything you'd like to plug in.
Yeah, follow your boy Hammer on Instagram, Twitter at Alex Hammerstone. Follow MLW on YouTube, on social media, and just stay in touch. Shoot me a message, shoot me a tweet. I'll try to get back to you guys. Thank you so much.
Perfect. All of those links will be in the description box below. Do not forget to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel. I'm Denise Salcedo. This is Alex Hammerstone, and we'll see you guys next time.